going to show you how easy it is to run a Flutter app on a Raspberry Pi. The first thing that we need is to install an OS on our Raspberry Pi. And for that, we need a SD card that is in here, and also a software to help us to install an image on a Raspberry Pi. For that, we will use Raspberry Pi Imager. In the software section, you should find Raspberry Pi installer in here. We need to install 64-bit Raspberry Pi OS. And in here, as your storage, you should insert your SD card to your laptop and choose a storage in here, and you can specify your SD card. Also, you need to define some settings in here. So you can come in here and set some host name for your device. For example, I set just kiosk. And also you should enable SSH, because during our debugging and running Flutter apps, we need that, and you should have this. For now, I just set the use password authentication for that. So you can set some username and password, as you can see in here. For me, the username is like Pi. It is very common that you set it like Pi, and set some password for that. You should define that. And also, it is better to configure a wireless LAN in here, so your Raspberry Pi, after the boot up, it will just connect to a Wi-Fi. Then you can use SSH to connect to that easily. So that's our settings, and you can just click on the right to write the operation system to your Raspberry Pi. So the next step is to create a SSH connection to our Raspberry Pi via our Windows machine or host machine. For that, we need the IP address that is set in our Raspberry Pi. To get that IP address, as you can see, you can move your mouse to the Wi-Fi icon on the Raspberry Pi OS. After that, you can see it shows some IP address. That's our Raspberry Pi IP address. With the IP address, we can create a SSH connection. For that, you need to enter SSH, the username of your Raspberry Pi, and the IP address. That is this one. So just enter your password, and now you have the connection to your Raspberry Pi. But this is not enough. We need to find a way to connect to our Raspberry Pi without any password. For that, we need to create a SSH key and save that in our Raspberry. To create a SSH key, we can use ssh-keygen. After enter, it asks about some paths. I will use the default one, and also need some passcode. I don't want to use any passcode, so just enter, and it created a SSH key that you can find it in here in your user and the SSH with the name of the rsa.pub. We need to copy the content of this file to our Raspberry. To copy the content of the rsa.pub file to your Raspberry Pi, I'm going to use this script that is copying the content of the file and move it to the Raspberry Pi. As you can see, it asks some password, and then we have it. So after that, if I use SSH, it seems we don't have to put any password. So if you have a Mac or Linux, this part is a little bit different, but I'm going to add that part in the description of the video. Now we need to install Flutter on our Raspberry Pi, and for this I'm using a Snap Installer. That is a tool and CLI that helps you to install and prepare the environment for your Flutter development. For installing a Snap Installer, you can come in here and use the getting start section and copy this code and just run it on your SSH connection like this. Take some time and install the installer. And in here, you have a snap installer in your terminal. So we can simply write snap installer to check what we have. We have a lot of commands like doctor install, kiosk, and other things. So let's check the doctor command. Snap installer, doctor. And as you can see, it will provide all the information that we need for Flutter installation, like the dependency that needs for the Flutter and also the Flutter SDK and all the things. So now it's time to install the Flutter. So we are using snap installer.install command. And as you can see, the Flutter installation has been completed, and you need to copy this code and reuse it because it is moving Flutter path to the path environment. So you need to restart your terminal, and you can just use Flutter -h version. As you can see, it is installed. So it is the time to create a connection between our host machine to the Raspberry. So for that, we are using snap CLI. Snap CLI is kind of Dart command line tools that helps you to create a custom device and define it for the Flutter SDK. The only things that you need is to add that package as a global package to the Dart. So for that, we will use Dart, pub, global, activate, and snap CLI. I've already added it, so I'm going to use it like snap CLI. In the devices command, we have a bunch of subcommands like add, delete, list, and update IP. With the add command, you can create your custom device and define it for the Flutter SDK. Let's check it out together. So snap CLI devices add. You can choose custom and express mode. I'm gonna use Raspberry Pi 4 Model B, and in here it needs the Raspberry Pi IP address and the username of the device. So as you can see, it's trying to ping the device, and if it is successfully defined that device, it will try to find Flutter path in that device. It's checking that that's the right path or not. I'm gonna accept it, and we have a Raspberry Pi defined in our Flutter SDK. Let's check out it with the list command. Yes, we have it in here. So in here, I just created a new Flutter app. That's the default template of the Flutter. That's a counter app. So I'm gonna test it on a Raspberry Pi to check is it working or not. So in here, as you can, in the devices section of the VS Code, you can also see the Raspberry Pi is defined in here. So you can also select it as a target device. Also, I wanted to test it in the Flutter devices command to check is it available or not. Yes, as you can see, it is also in here, and the idea of it is like Pi for B. So let's run it together with Flutter run -d Pi-4b. So as you can see, we could run the Flutter, and it is running on the Raspberry Pi, and we can see it on the right side. And also we have a hot reload, hot restart, and all this stuff that we have in our common development. And let's check it together. For example, let's make this color blue and do the hot reload. And in here, the app changes completely. We can also come here and open the dev tools that is completely working the same as for example, mobile development.